Today, I want to talk about what bothers me in Tiny Tina's Wonderlands. I really like this game. I've been a big fan of the Borderlands franchise, so this was a must-buy for me. And I pre-ordered it. And most people say today, don't pre-order big games; they don't live up to the hype. While I do agree to that somewhat, I knew this was going to be built probably on top of the Borderlands 3 engine, so it was going to be close to something that I really enjoyed. But, even though it is a really good game, there are some things that bother me. So I just kind of want to cover some of those things and explain why they bother me. I have hopes that they'll fix these things. That's the great thing about video games is there's always a chance to fix things through updates and hot fixes and patches and DLCs. So let's get started. The first thing I want to talk about are random encounters. Yes, I understand that that's part of a role-playing game, especially Dungeons and Dragons and other RPGs, is that you have random encounters. I thought it was kind of a cool idea when I first saw it. And, a couple of the first ones, I thought, oh, this is cool. You get, fight these guys and you get loot. But it kind of stopped there, After a while, they just became really annoying. And I do realize that you can actually punch the little character that's chasing you around the overworld to avoid the random encounter, but it doesn't always work right. And you still get stuck in it. And when I'm trying to do a quest or trying to get somewhere or do something, I don't want to be bothered by these random encounters. I really felt like they kind of pushed it down everybody's throat. And you also have the little encampments, which just didn't even seem like what was the purpose of them. They're just basically a random encounter that you have to do, but there was nothing that would really be a negative if you didn't do it. It was purely optional. So the whole random encounter thing just didn't make sense to me. The next thing I want to talk about are bugs. Yes, there are a lot of bugs. Yes, this is early in the cycle. And yes, they did develop this game, during the pandemic. So they were pretty much working from home. So it probably wasn't the best working environment. But wow, there are a lot of bugs and they need to be fixed. I've never had it happen to me, but I've seen videos of people having loot that just went through the floor. Things that I have happened to me is when I'm in the overworld and I hit a mimic chest. Usually I want to get in that mimic encounter. That is one of the few random encounters I want to get because there is a lot of loot that you get from those mimic encounters. But more than 50% of the time when that mimic hits me, I just freeze. There's nowhere I can do. The only thing I can do is fast travel to escape that. I don't go into the encounter and the mimic just disappears. Some other things I've gotten stuck inside chests, like I've been hit, by an enemy and clipped into a chest and got stuck. I've got several achievements that will not unlock. They're done. The one for level 40, I hit level 40, I didn't get the achievement, and it won't ever unlock again. And there's also the one for increasing your loot luck above 3,000. Right now I'm almost at 4,000 loot luck. Still don't have that achievement. So those kind of bugs are things that kind of ruin the game a little bit. They really bother me. Now, it's not going to keep me from playing the game. And like I said, hopefully they'll get a lot of those fixed and patched as we go along. But they really need to start looking at those and take priority because some of them are really annoying. So the next thing I want to talk about is DLC. We've already got the first DLC that dropped. And yes, I must have missed the memo. I don't remember ever being widely published that there was not going to be any story DLC in these first 4 DLCs that have been promised, especially with the Chaotic Great Edition. This really just aggravates me to no end. I felt like we were promised DLC, and yes, the first one was DLC, but really it was such a disappointment. You literally walk into the area and you see this fantastic carnival environment and you're thinking, wow, this is going to be great. I can't imagine what we're going to get out of this. And really all that is you get a wheel to spin and you get a mirror to go through and do basically what equates to another chaos chamber with a big boss at the end. I realize every week that that's going to change, that they're going to add events and, the enemy's going to get more difficult. But they didn't even bother in the first DLC specifically. They didn't even bother to add any real new enemy types. And to me, that's just lazy. That's just really felt like a cash grab. And, just disappointed that it literally will take you less than 20 minutes to run through it right now, this first DLC, and that's just not acceptable. And this is one of the things that really bothers me at this point. I really hope they make up for this and maybe we'll come out with some free stuff like they did in Borderlands 3 with the takedowns, like the headhunter takedowns and the events for Halloween. Those were some pretty cool free DLC stuff that they came out with. And basically what we got today was worse, or what we got with the first DLC was worse than that free DLC with Borderlands 3. And it really bothers me because this whole game was built on the premise of a previous great DLC for Borderlands 2. So it's just really disappointing, and I really hope they remedy this somehow, some way. The other thing that it's not a deal breaker for me, but it just kind of was disappointing, is the missing NPCs. There are beloved NPCs in the Borderlands universe, and I realize that this game doesn't take place truly in the Borderlands universe, that it's Tiny Tina's kind of own Wonderland creation, but there were some NPCs that you just can't live without, it feels like, in a Borderlands game. You get Brick kind of makes an appearance, Mr. Torque makes an appearance, Claptrap makes an appearance. Those are all great characters that we love them, but it just doesn't feel right not having Marcus. Some of the other characters that, I realized that it was probably difficult to get those voice actors, but to me, here's the thing about voice actors. They're voice actors. You can find somebody that sounds similar, and then you can write a story about why they sound different. One of the cool things about Paladin Mike was they changed his gender in the game, and basically they had this backstory about how it was some cool character and she wanted to steal it. They could have done the same thing with Marcus, or maybe even bring back a Dr. Zed or somebody from the rest of the Borderlands franchise. I just felt like it was really lacking. And, the machines, they just kind of totally turned them. In the Assault on Dragon Keep, they actually took those characters and tweaked them to fit the vibe of the game. And I felt like that was really lacking. Once again, it wasn't a horrible thing, I understand. But, if you can afford to pay Wanda Sykes, Andy Samberg, Will Arnett money to do voice acting, I think they probably could afford some of those other people to have them come in and do a few lines, even for a few side quests. Would have been really nice. The other thing that, and this is a problem that I've always had with Borderlands game, is just a slow start. It seems like when you start your game, they put you in tutorial mode, but for the first probably 5 or 6 levels, the weapons are just so weak and just feel so bland that it makes you almost want to quit the game. This is something that I feel like they need to kind of fix, and hopefully it's something they'll eventually address, maybe if the Borderlands 4 ever comes out. But it's just one thing that's always kind of bothered me, and especially bothered me in this game, because there's so many cool weapons and so many cool things to have, that it really felt like that loot, getting that good loot, something with some kick to it, would have been a nice to start out a little quicker with that. And in this game, speaking of loot, the gold grind. Wow, everything takes gold in this game. And there's some, you got moon orbs and some other things, the souls in the DLC. But pretty much most things that you buy and need in this game require gold. And it is such a grind to get gold. Basically you just have to go loot and sell and loot and sell. And it's just a real hard grind to get gold in this game. The quests don't even really give you that much gold. So it's tough. It really is tough, and it kind of is aggravating. especially when you want to max out, especially when you want to buy weapons from machines. That's one of the good things about this game is the machines will actually sell you old quest items, but they'll be upgraded to your current level. But they're so expensive, you may not be able to afford them, or you have to spend all your gold just to get that one item. So the gold in the game is I wish they could do something to fix that. Not sure what they can. They've adjusted other things, so maybe they'll adjust that. The next thing is dying because of reloads. So there are some weapons that when you throw, they have status effects. I believe was the TDR. I think it's called PDR or something in this one. But I've got some weapons that they do dark magic, and when you reload, you have to make sure you're looking up and throwing your gun far away or at an enemy. If you throw it too close, it can actually hit you and cause you to get down. And if there's no enemies around you, you can't get a death save. So it's just something that really bothers me. And I don't know. I think they should fix it where if you're throwing something that causes status effect damage and it's your own weapon, it should not affect you. It should only affect the enemies. The next thing is legendary items. Now, I'll exclude guns in this conversation. I have seen very few legendary items that I just thought, wow, this is just unbelievable. This is truly a legendary shield, or this is truly a legendary ring, or and maybe it's just my loot luck. I don't know. I mean, I feel like I have pretty high loot luck, but some of the legendary stuff, especially the spells, they're basically trick spells. They look cool. Maybe they've got a cool side effect, but they don't feel truly legendary, like I want to keep this equipped at all times. Basically, what I've seen is I want to equip it once, see what it does. Oh, wow, that's cool. Okay, move on. I'm going to go back and equip this purple spell or this purple item that is so much better and is, does so much more damage or whatever. It just seems like the legendary items weren't, they were more for the funny factor, not the, wow, this is really a legendary item factor. Now, I have had some pretty great legendary weapons that I really like, and some, in fact, I've used, 3, 4, 5 levels past when I should have. So the guns are pretty good for legendary, but the rest of them, haven't found a lot. Maybe there are some out there and I just haven't found them, but so far it's been not quite a good experience as I would hope so. And that leads me to the next one, Nerfing Weapons. So they've already had some updates where they've done weapon adjustments. To me, I wish they would just leave it alone. If you're going to do anything, then balance it by bringing what's not good up to what is good. People make builds and people play this game and they find something that works for them. And then the developers came in and they tore it down and basically, nerf the gun, and then it's not as good, and so now your build's not viable anymore. I just wish they would stop this. They need to just leave it be. This is not player versus player. So when you're playing multiplayer, it doesn't matter if the guy I'm playing with has these awesome guns. That's actually a good thing. He's helping me. We're sharing. That's a good thing. If this was a true, this was like Fortnite or some other game where, you're trying to kill the other player constantly, then yeah, it would make sense to have a balanced system. But this is a fantasy game. It's a Borderlands game. Let the unbalance happen. Let people have fun if they want to have fun. Let them experiment if they want to experiment. And speaking of multiplayer, that's my next issue. I haven't played a lot of multiplayer, but I have heard there's been a ton of issues. I do, however, play split screen with my kids, and the split screen is awful. You can't read anything. You try to pick up items, and it doesn't show you, any description hardly. You just get a few numbers, and it makes it really difficult to just do anything, and it's an annoying experience. It never really has been a great experience in the Borderlands. I think Borderlands 1 and 2 did a really good job. Borderlands 3, they went downhill. And I know it's hard to program for that split screen, but wow, I love playing split screen with my kids. I love playing couch co-op. So trying to work through those issues, just is not a fun experience. So I hope they figure out some way to fix that. You know, I'm playing on a pretty big TV with my kids, so it's not like I'm playing on a small TV where I can't read it. I'm playing on a big TV and you still can't tell what things are. So they just kind of need to fix that. And the final thing that I have issues with is the lack of choices in this game. So Dungeons and Dragons and role playing centers around having choices. You know, if you come to this situation and you can say, what do you want to do? So you can do this thing or this thing. And I felt a lot of the times the choices weren't yours to be made. The other players at the table, you know, the other NPCs at the table with you, they would make the choices for you, or you know, you would have choices and then they would take them, and then all of a sudden your choices were gone, or your choices were basically meaningless. You know, it didn't matter what you did; it were just optional, basically optional pieces of the quest. So it just really bothered me, you know, especially at the end game when you get to the end of the game. There was so much they could have done to make a replayability factor just increase by giving choices as to what happened and did a few different things. It felt like they kind of, you know, just kind of gave up on that idea. You know, there's so many quests where you could have had choices of doing this thing or that thing, still had the same outcome, but would have, you know, increased the replayability a little bit more and made the game a little bit more enjoyable. Well, that's all I've got today. I did make this list. There was a lot of things here that bother me, but I really do like this game, and I'll probably do something similar to this where I talk about what I really like about this game and what they did well with Tiny Tina's Wonderlands. So let me know in the comments if there was things that you saw in the game or things that you noticed in the game that you just said, I don't like this. This thing is just so annoying, or man, I really wish they would have changed this. You know, I know they can't always make the perfect game, but what they can do is they can do hot fixes. They can do updates. They've done it in the past with Borderlands 3. They've done it with Borderlands 2. I mean, they released a whole free DLC just to increase the story, and it was awesome. It was great. It was, to me, it was one of the best DLCs that they've ever done. So I'm really looking forward to what they can do with this. You know, now that we're kind of getting to the tail end of the pandemic, so people can actually get together, people can work together. Hopefully they'll take this to the next level. I'm really liking this game, and I'm hoping you all are liking it. So let me know, and if you have anything that you want to see me cover about the game, you know, drop a comment, let me know, and I'll try to cover it. Or if you got any questions that maybe I could answer, drop a comment and I'll try to answer it. All right, that's all I've got. If you enjoyed this, I know it was a little different. Usually I do how-to videos, but it's a little different. Please consider hitting that thumbs up button, give it a like. And if you're not already a subscriber, please consider subscribing. It always helps us grow and helps us get out to more people. And as always, thanks for watching.